If you follow DC Comics from time to time, you may have come across Amygdala at some point or another. The term amygdala refers to something common to all of us. According to Batman, Shadow of the Bat, 1992, number 3, it's an almond-shaped mass of nerves located within our brain, responsible for controlling our rage-centric emotions and feelings. However, in real life, it not only regulates aggression and fear, but also links one's emotions to one's memories, learning capabilities, decisions, and senses. Having covered the etymology, let us now make an important distinction between Prime Earth and New Earth. Prime Earth, or Earth Zero, refers to the DC Universe established post-Flashpoint in 2011, especially through DC's 52 series, called the New 52, whereas New Earth was the main DC Universe built over the decades preceding 2011's reboot. In terms of continuity of characters and concomitant events, Prime Earth is fairly simpler than New Earth. We'll come back to this later via our slightly deeper plunge into the Flashpoint. Alright, let's begin. But before we go into our explanation, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Amygdala. From damaged brain to rage-fueled rampage. Aaron Helsinger underwent a surgery aimed to bring his homicidal aggression under check through the removal of his amygdala. But the surgery backfired and instead made him angrier. Thus, the name Amygdala. Can't really blame him, can we? Amygdala, Arkham, and Batman. First up, we have the 4-part arc known as The Last Arkham. This 3rd-part issue marks the first known appearance of Amygdala in the DC New Earth timeline. Here, Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, breaks into the Arkham Asylum, not in search of Amygdala, but Batman. Yes, Batman is behind bars at Arkham for the alleged murder of a police officer. Obviously, the whole thing's a setup to keep an eye on one of the inmates, Victor Zsasz. You see, the recent murders matched Zsasz's MO, i.e., of keeping the dead body clothed and intact in a position such that the victim seemed alive from the outside. After breaking in, Nightwing helps Batman to dig up some information on Zsasz to find out if the owner of the asylum, Jeremiah Arkham, is also involved. They, however, trigger an alarm and the guards storm in. Batman temporarily surrenders himself, allowing Nightwing to escape. Meanwhile, a violent, resisting amygdala is tased and carried off to a room. Arkham's men then take Batman to the same room and releases Amygdala, almost like a wild animal, to fight him. Through a metaphorical limelight, the writer Alan Grant introduces Amygdala here and briefly touches upon his surgical mishap, but the focus quickly shifts to Batman as he attempts to placate Amygdala, to no avail. He somehow understands that Amygdala isn't at fault here and quickly knocks him unconscious, to not hurt him too much. Interestingly, Amygdala once went all no-holds-barred in terms of rage against Arkham. This slightly later released one-issue arc is called Underworld Unleashed, Batman, Devil's Asylum. Here, too, Amygdala was not the key rabble-rouser. It was someone called Crippen, who had a deal in his cell with a devil named Neuron from Hell. Ooh, that makes a good verse for a rap. For starters, the deal entailed offering Crippen world dominion against the exchange of his soul. But the devil had other ideas. He made Crippen set the asylum on fire and instigate a riot against Arkham's orderlies and doctors. This is where an amygdala came in ready to kill anyone in sight, be it a fellow inmate, orderly, a doctor, or Jeremiah himself. Although his personal bias towards doctors was justified, the only way to stop him was through tasing. Later, under Neuron's sway, Crippen poisoned everyone. It was to attract Batman's attention and to make him kill one of the inmates to secure the antidote to the poison. Needless to say that Batman saved the day without killing. Amygdala was a manipulated puppet. Amygdala's next appearance expands on his childlike innocence and vulnerability to being exploited by others. This mini-arc, literally called Puppets, published in Detective Comics Volume 1, 1937, number 659, is a part of the year-long arc named Batman Nightfall. Here, the Arkham Asylum's walls are blown up, leading to a frenzy of prisoners making a run for it. However, Arnold Wesker, aka the ventriloquist, sits under a tree and mounts a sock on his hand to ask it about the whereabouts of his inanimate dummy, decked up like Al Capone friend, Scarface. Amygdala approaches Wesker from behind the tree and asks if he too can help look for the friend. He, with sort of helpless innocence, adds, "I'm kinda lost too. Somebody blew up my room." The duo walks into an eatery and Wesker makes his sock, what he calls Socko, ask, "We are looking for Scarface. Have any of you gentlemen seen him? Perhaps I might even enlist your aid in searching for him." Everybody breaks into laughter, but what follows is iconic. An angry Amygdala intervenes with, "You're laughing at my little friend? Nobody laughs at my little friend," and breaks a couple of legs and bodies, literally. He also asks, "What's so funny?" while throwing one of the people through a window. As both of them walk away from the scene, Wesker tells Amygdala, "I need you to help me get something." Amygdala follows up with, "And then I'll get my medicine," which Wesker sort of dismisses away with a "we'll see." Meanwhile, Batman and Robin are on the lookout for the escapees. The former decides to check in on a toy store robbery as an offbeat lead, and finds Wesker with Socko and a Mickey Mouse toy on both his hands respectively. It's only befitting that Wesker's looking for another potential dummy to help find Scarface. As an all-serious Batman asks Wesker in a no-nonsense tone to come with him, Amygdala attacks him from behind. He slams Batman onto one side of the store, but Batman gets up quickly with a handstand and kicks Amygdala's face. Amygdala holds Batman by his neck to punch him real hard, but is interrupted by a strong headache. A pain-ridden Amygdala cries out loud that he needs his medicine, and Batman utilizes the opportunity to knock him unconscious with a fisted karate chop on the back of his neck. At this point, you've got to feel bad for the poor fellow. Amygdala and Nightwing. Interestingly, in Nightwing Volume 2, 1996, number 18, Amygdala turned out to be one of Dick Grayson's friendly neighbors in Bloodhaven. He was released from Arkham with a medical implant, keeping his aggression in check for the next 6 months. He had just moved into one of the rented flats in the same apartment Dick was staying at. A few issues ahead, in number 67, Dick reveals that Amygdala has no emotional thermostat, and without his medications, he keeps going back and forth between rage, sadness, and happiness. A fire broke out in the Lock Haven Penitentiary, and Nightwing got there to prevent an escape by the inmates. Amygdala, the warden of the prison, is all worked up. Nightwing asks him to calm down, but to no avail. He emphasizes, "It's not your fault, Aaron. I'm your friend. We can work this out, Aaron." But this violently triggers the big guy. Aaron charges at Nightwing with, "You do not know. Not my friend. How do you know my name?" And Nightwing has to defend himself with a kick to Aaron's face. Aaron exclaims, "Hurt my nose, crushed little mashed man," and grapples Nightwing with a bear hug, exerting pressure on his ribs and choking his breath. Nightwing retaliates by activating his suit's taser and temporarily incapacitates Aaron. Nightwing attempts to strike a knockout blow with his Eskrima stick, but Aaron tosses him aside, exclaiming, "Little masked man burnt me. I'm tired of you." What follows is bound to win your hearts. While an incapacitated Nightwing had difficulty moving, Aaron is in tears, thinking he killed him. He bawls for a while, only to fall asleep like a baby. Amygdala, Prime Earth Origins. Here, the slightly tweaked transformation of Aaron into Amygdala is one of the many events of DC's Zero-Year arc, taking place when the Riddler had sucked Gotham's electricity. The power cut caused Aaron to wake up to his senses mid-surgery, break out of the operation theater, and kill 2 doctors, one of whom was operating on him. Later, Amygdala comes across a young Dick Grayson Jason and some kids when they were returning home from a movie theater. Needless to say, their meeting was anything but pleasant. Dick, like Batman at the toy store, kicks Amygdala on his face to save one of the other kids and jumps up to a building's rooftop through the stairs. Amygdala chases Dick until the latter jumps from one rooftop to the other. He tries to make the jump and falls down, allowing the kids to escape. All this is covered in Nightwing Volume 3, 2011, number 25. Build up to the city of Bane. Now there's been a lot going on since the beginning of Batman Volume 3, 2016. Contextual storytelling is the need of the hour, and we start off with the I Am Gotham arc, spread across the first 6 issues of this volume. Hugo Strange was given the responsibility of tending to a fragile Roger Hayden, aka Psycho Pirate's needs, by Amanda Waller. But Strange betrayed Waller and manipulated the pirate to serve his own interests. Meanwhile, Batman was being helped by 2 sibling vigilantes with Superman-like strength and powers, Henry Clover, aka Hank or Gotham, and Claire Clover, aka Gotham Girl. Their parents were once saved by Batman from a violent mugger during their childhood. Moving on, Strange sets up a trap and makes the pirate instill anger and fear into Gotham and Gotham Girl, respectively. After which, an enraged and uncontrollable Gotham had to be fatally stopped by Gotham Girl. Eventually, Strange trades the pirate to Bane in exchange for venom to turn a bunch of dead people into monsters. After dealing with these monsters and Strange in the Night of the Monster Men arc, covering issues 7 and 8, Batman breaks into the Penaduro prison at Santa Prisca to take back the pirate from Bane's clutches to help Gotham Girl recover mentally. He recruits a team of Arkham inmates and executes the extraction in the I Am Suicide arc, spanning across issues 9 to 13. However, in the I Am Bane arc, spread across issues 16 to 20, Bane comes to Gotham to take the pirate back, even attacking some of the Bat family members in the process. Eventually, in a brutal face-off, Batman puts Bane behind bars at Arkham. Alright, listen, this bit involves a titular character. Prior to this, Bane broke into Arkham and thrashed a bunch of inmates, including, yes, Amygdala. Once again, the poor guy just takes a beating for no fault of his. Not to mention, Amygdala occupied an even smaller panel space in the Intermedial arc, named Rooftops, happening in between the I Am Suicide and I Am Bane arcs. You see, Batman struck a deal with Arkham to transfer Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, to a better prison named Blackgate Penitentiary, in exchange for her help in extracting the pirate from Bane's clutches. But before turning her in there, they spend an entire night together on the rooftops. In a sarcastic turn of events, that night, Batman, accompanied by Catwoman, had to entertain almost the entirety of his gallery rogues, including Amygdala. You already know what happens to the poor guy. Before moving on, let us briefly take you through the Flashpoint and arc named The Button. Flash's attempt to save his mother from being murdered by Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, or Professor Zoom, created an alternate Flashpoint timeline with multiple anomalies. The Flash fixed them and eventually restored the main DC timeline approximately to its pre-Flashpoint state. For this reason, the DC Rebirth came into being, with relaunched character arcs mostly restored to a pre-Flashpoint state, with instilled elements of the New 52 series. Check out all 5 issues of Flashpoint Volume 2, 2011, to catch up with more details that we have skimmed through. Now, towards the end of DC's Rebirth, Wally West was pulled out of the Speed Force by Flash at the Batcave. Along with Wally, a smiley button, which was once a badge worn by the comedian from DC's Watchmen, also found its way there. In the Button arc, spread across Batman Volume 3, number 21 and 22, and The Flash Volume 5, number 21 and 22, respectively, the smiley badge at the Batcave vibrates with an electric buzz, and a hologram-like thing of Thomas Wayne as Batman briefly appears in front of Bruce. Bruce immediately calls Flash and informs him of this, but Reverse Flash reaches there first and badly beats him up. Zoom approaches the button to be teleported someplace. Later, Flash arrives at the scene to find the skeletal remains of Zoom and a beaten-up Batman. In search of answers, Bruce and Flash run on the cosmic treadmill and crash land at Thomas Wayne's Batcave in the somehow still surviving Flashpoint timeline. Flash manages to fix the rundown treadmill, but the Flashpoint timeline suddenly seems to be crumbling down. Bruce and Flash ask Thomas to hop along, but Thomas pushes them away and urges Bruce to give up being Batman before seemingly perishing away with the timeline. After the button, Bane systematically plans his revenge against Batman. He starts off with Holly Robinson, a friend of Catwoman, and the Joker, both of whom convince Catwoman not to marry Bruce, else the misery that makes him Batman will be lost. This takes place through issues 48 to 50 via the arcs The Best Man and The Wedding, respectively. On receiving intel from Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, about Bane being the mastermind behind all this, Bruce makes Alfred supervise Penguin. Meanwhile, in search of answers, Bruce thrashes an apparently catatonic Bane at Arkham and recently released Arkham inmates. But in a strange turn of events, Thomas Wayne ends up at the Wayne Manor, and Bruce is held captive at Arkham while being subjected to the toxic gas of Jonathan Crane, aka the Scarecrow. This leads Bruce to a series of introspective nightmares, from issues 61 to 63 and 66 to 69, through the arc named Nightmares, with a K. The nightmares are interrupted briefly via the Intermedial arc, The Price, spread across Batman Volume 3, number 64 and 65, and The Flash Volume 5, number 64 and 65, respectively. It highlights Gotham Girl's attempt at temporarily reviving her dead brother through a super variant of Venom, which after his body starts melting off like wax, killing him again. You see, the Gotham duo got their powers through a variant of Venom and genetically modified themselves in a way that the more they used up their Superman-like powers, the lesser years they had in their lifespan. As a parallel, think of a phone supporting fast charging. The higher wattage of the fast charger, the lesser will the phone battery's remaining lifespan be. She, too, injects a vial of venom into her body and uses up all of her powers, killing herself. But she's resuscitated by Flash through an electric shock and kept inside a stasis tube at the Batcave. Moving on. In the last nightmare, in the 69th issue, Tom King breaks through the dream world and shows us how Bane and Thomas are coming along in the real world. This is juxtaposed alongside Bruce's own speculation in his dream that both Bane and Thomas share a common motivation: to stop Batman. So yes, not only is Thomas Wayne mysteriously rescued from a crumbling timeline, he also shows up in this timeline and joins hands with Bane to make Bruce give up being Batman. Yeah, kinda lame. After waking up from his slumber, Bruce beats up a bunch of inmates on his way out of Arkham. Thus begins the Fall and Fallen arc, ranging across issues 70 to 74. Amygdala and Solomon Grundy too face his wrath and are dealt with swiftly. He returns to the Wayne Manor to take on Bane, but is defeated this time, only to later find himself on a horse ride with Thomas in a desert. Talk about weird. Martha's coffin is also dragged along to revive her in a pit called the Nain Pit. This pit allows the resurrection of a dead person in exchange of a living person. So, almost the Lazarus pit, but with a catch. And this pit, too, is under the protective custody of a faction of ghoul soldiers, this time calling themselves the Death in the Desert. Bruce comes to his senses and helps Thomas fight them. He also plays along with the whole resurrection thing until the point when he reaches down the pit and confesses to have buried Martha in the desert while Thomas was asleep. Smooth. Naturally, they fight with each other until the arc comes to an end with a hand crawling out of the pit. City of Bane. From issue 75 onwards, Bane has taken over Gotham. Thomas Wayne presides as Gotham's Batman with a red circle below the bat symbol on his chest, and Gotham Girl plays Thomas's sidekick, albeit with reservations against labeling herself as such. Meanwhile, Hugo Strange plays Commissioner instead of Commissioner Gordon and calls for Thomas through the bat signal. Also, the ventriloquist serves as Thomas's butler at the Wayne Manor, while villains such as the Joker, the Riddler, Zaz, Laszlo Valentine, aka Pig, Jervis Tetch, aka the Mad Hatter, Waylon Jones, aka Killer Croc, Alexander James Sartorius, aka Dr. Phosphorus, etc., take turns in patrolling the city in GCPD vehicles. There were some others such as Kite Man, Scarecrow, and the Tweedle Brothers, etc., who, despite not initially obeying Bane, are made to do so, possibly under the mind-controlling influence of the pirate. Most importantly, Alfred is taken hostage with an ultimatum in place, promising his death if any Bat family member shows up in Gotham. Elsewhere, in the mountains, Bruce gets his throat slashed and clothes stolen by two kids who seem to be stooges of Margaret Pye, aka Magpie, but Catwoman saves a dying Bruce. Back in Bane-occupied Gotham, Harvey Dent, now turned into Two-Face, Amygdala, and Solomon Grundy, in a show of resistance, teamed up and killed one of Bane's allies, Simon X, aka Dr. X. Consequentially, Thomas shows up in a slightly modified Batmobile to control the situation. Amygdala, while being off-panel, tells Grundy, "Look, Grundy, a tiny man in a rodent costume." Interestingly, Amygdala not only recognizes that this isn't the Batman they know, he also addresses him as a tiny man in a rodent costume. If this were Bruce, such a comment wouldn't have been made. On the other hand, this is the most insightful remark made by Amygdala so far. The last issue where he came a close second was issue 19 from the I Am Bane arc. There, when Bane broke into Arkham looking for Batman, he came across Grundy and Amygdala among many other inmates. Grundy, as usual, opened with, "I am Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday," and Amygdala sarcastically added, "I am Amygdala. I don't know what rhymes with amygdala." In the current arc, however, Amygdala has been given relatively more dialogue and panel space. He follows up with, "What do you say? We crush him," to which Grundy responds almost out of muscle memory, "Born on a Monday." Amygdala carries it forward, affirming, "Yeah, okay, we crush him. Ba-pow!" Gotham Girl intervenes with a jab to Grundy's face. Now, Gotham Girl's clearly not in her senses. We probably didn't cover this, but back when Gotham Girl put a fatal stop to her brother's rage in the I Am Gotham arc, the next few days she kept talking out loud while addressing her brother as if he was still right next to her. Here, too, Gotham Girl talks a lot but addresses whoever's in vicinity. A slight improvement. She starts off with her reservations about being Thomas's sidekick and ends with her iconic reintroduction. "Hi, I'm Gotham Girl. Like Robin, but better, and you should stop, cool?" While addressing Amygdala. Amygdala responds with a strong, buff, villainous, "Oh, little girl, is that all you've got?" After which, she again starts off garrulously, "What? Yes, no, not really. I've got more. I've got a lot of powers. I don't know if you want a whole list. Some of them are standard, what you'd expect. Not that I know what you'd expect. I do have laser beam eyes. That's something I got. Something else." Funnily enough, by now Amygdala's childlike yet monstrous animal instinct has taken over, and he's just focused on sweeping Gotham Girl off her feet. Still, he asks, "What?" Following which, Gotham Girl demonstrates her eye-lasering prowess and severs off Amygdala's right hand. She continues with, "Laser beam eyes. I don't know if you didn't hear or you were confused, but yeah, I'm saying it again because you said what?" We skip 2 issues and move ahead to the 77th issue, where Gotham Girl faces Damian. Damian ignores her blabber about how there's no point running from her, and when she comes close enough to stop Damian, he uses the Wand of Clarion to magically tie up Gotham Girl. Later, Damian also stops the Scarecrow and Zsasz from killing a pedestrian and his dog, but his active presence and involvement costs Alfred's neck-snapping death at the hands of Bane. Elsewhere, Batman and Catwoman sort out their differences in exile, intercept the shipment being sold by Magpie to Bane, and come back to Gotham. The shipment happened to be the last known vial of supervenom, once sold by Bane himself. Basically, Batman had destroyed all the venom vials in the world, except one, which he kept hidden away for further research with his old mentor, the Memory of the Mountain. Yes, the reason behind his trip to the mountains. Back in Gotham, Amygdala and Grundy once again take a beating, this time at the hands of Batman and Catwoman, casually, without being given a chance to speak. Eventually, the Bat-Cat duo faces Bane, but just when Bruce is about to break Bane's back, Thomas shoots them unconscious. Bruce wakes up to his senses to discover Alfred's dead body, dressed and seated opposite him at the dining table in a Zsasz-like manner. What follows is a confrontative fight between Bruce and Thomas in issue 84, which, among other things, reveals that it was Reverse Flash who rescued Thomas from the crumbling Flashpoint timeline and brought him here. In the end, Bruce incapacitates Thomas and keeps him at Arkham. Later, his fellow Arkham inmate, Bane, breaks Thomas's back and gets even with him. Fate of the big guy. We now move on to Amygdala's next major appearance in Catwoman Volume 5, 2015. But first, allow us to indulge in some contextual storytelling. Right after resolving the mayhem caused by Simon Saint's magistrate program in the Fear State arc, from issues 34 to 38, Selina comes back home. Thus begins the Dangerous Liaisons arc, from issues 39 to 42. The first thing she does is intercept a business meeting held at a strip club between the 5 ruling crime bosses of Gotham's underworld: Finbar Sullivan, Dragos Ibanescu, Federico Tommaso, Aiko Hasegawa, and Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask. Interestingly, the club's called the Kitty Cat Club, and its girls wear a cat-themed costume with necessary head accessories. So, thematically speaking, Catwoman already has a connection with the girls, like her own kittens. Prior to this, Catwoman paid the Yakuza boss, Aiko Hasegawa, a visit at her yacht to strike an understanding for sharing control over the docks to stop people like Dragos Ibanescu, who, for instance, trafficked girls through the ports. But Aiko refused her proposal and, insultingly, asked Catwoman to schmooze her way in like the other powerless and pretty girls, from a place called Trixie. The Trixie was once a boarding house for single girls, later brought to a mafioso and turned into a convenient space to keep the mistresses. Owing to a shootout, a flat on the 9th floor was a little too ventilated and vacant with a permanently shut door. But Catwoman had no difficulty sneaking in and settling down there. She was suddenly greeted by a rather rare Biolian blue cat, courtesy of a man dressed in white with a cowl covering his eyes and nose. Valmont. Back in the club, Sionis recklessly fires at Catwoman and 2 of the dancer girls, Christy and Jasmine, but the former helps the girls escape safely. The next day, Catwoman goes to check in on Christy, only to find her murdered. Christy is revealed to be one of Federico Tommaso's mistresses, and of course with Tommaso's consent, she has been killed by the Black Mask's goons. Tommaso considered this a necessary sacrifice to keep Catwoman in line. Elsewhere, Catwoman, with some help from Dario, Tommaso's only son, thrashes the Black Mask's goons. You see, Dario had a personal vested interest in helping Catwoman. His boyfriend, Noah Goddard, a consigliere to the family, was to replace Dario as the Tommaso underboss. However, after Catwoman's thrashing session, Noah, along with 2 men, come after Catwoman. Mistaking him to be drunk, Catwoman hops in closer to warn him, but Noah shoots her at close range with a rock salt gun. Valmont retaliates by killing the two Tommaso men and tends to Catwoman's wounds. Long story short, Catwoman finds the silliest yet the most effective way to get back at Sionis. She steals his mask and replaces it with a duplicate made by Valmont. The Mafia bosses meet to vote on how to deal with Catwoman, but Sionis had already asked his men to shoot Catwoman when in sight. As weird as it may sound, Sionis couldn't let his mask be harmed and had to stop his men. This is because the original mask was carved with black wood from his father's coffin. Sionis then rounds up a posse and reaches the docks where Catwoman had been spotted. Meanwhile, Aiko's Koban, a team of weirdly costumed Yakuza fighters, had already surrounded Sionis with his men. Catwoman walks out unharmed and throws off the mask only to detonate it. Then we move on to the next two issues, 43 and 44. Here, Sionis, with the help of Federico Tommaso, assigns Red Claw the task of bringing in Catwoman's head. Meanwhile, Catwoman goes on a road trip with Harley Quinn. They are first stalked and chased by a guy in a car, who they mistook as Sionis' hitman. Although the Red Claw does make an appearance later, they tie the creep up and send him to Sionis to teach both of them a lesson. Moving on to issues 45 and 46, Sionis calls for a meeting with Ibanescu and Tommaso and calls the trio to the Gentleman's Club. He introduces them to his newly shipped ally. Guess who? Amygdala, who practically serves as their gentleman bodyguard. Catwoman reaches the site to intervene, while all Amygdala says is, "Kill Kitty," and "I smell you, Kitty," before being knocked out by her. Fast forward to issue 50, the last issue of the three-part arc named Furious Hearts, starting from issue 48 onwards. Ace Chemicals, a legally abandoned chemical plant in Alleytown with an adjoined dock, falls under the jurisdiction of Aiko Hasegawa, who occasionally uses it for matters of the Hasegawa clan. However, it has been hijacked by Alexis K, aka Punchline, to produce a street drug called XO. To know in detail about the ensuing war between Aiko and Koban versus Punchline and the Royal Flush Gang, check out Punchline, the Gotham Game, Volume 1, Number 2. To briefly sum up the fight, Aiko was just about to kill Punchline, which is when Batman intervened. But Punchline utilized the opportunity and stabbed Aiko, for which the latter took a fall, but had been safely admitted to a hospital by Batman. This issue begins with Team Catwoman, including Billy and the Alleytown Strays, planning to take on Team Punchline at the plant to thwart the latter's drug trafficking endeavor. As the fight is well underway, Valmont finds Amygdala kept in a stasis tube of sorts. In other words, somehow Punchline and gang have managed to kidnap Amygdala from the clutches of the Gentleman's Club. He breaks the tube and releases the enraged Amygdala in the hopes of ensuring the defeat of Punchline's team. As Catwoman was about to leave the site after tying up Punchline for Gotham's police, Amygdala violently breaks into the scene. He takes Punchline on the shoulders and heads towards Catwoman, exclaiming, "Kill Kitty!" For the lack of a better approach, Valmont throws one of his sais at Amygdala's forehead, killing him. Batman comes down on Valmont with a fight for his alleged murder, but a pillar crumbling down on Catwoman diverts Batman's attention. However, Valmont utilizes the opportunity and plunges in to stab Batman from behind, but Catwoman intercepts by stabbing Valmont with her nails. After that, Selina confesses her crime and is taken into custody. Arrowverse version of Amygdala. Before wrapping things up, it's interesting to note that Amygdala had a slightly different origin story in the televised world of DC-inspired TV series, the Arrowverse. Here, Aaron underwent UV radiation therapy to cure his mental illness, whatever that was. The illness was eradicated, but the radiation caused the growth of a cancerous tumor near his amygdala. This rendered him prone to a truckload of unchecked anger and aggression and earned him the name Amygdala. The doctor in charge of the treatment was Ethan Roger, who worked for Hamilton Dynamics, a defense contractor situated in Gotham. Much like the above-mentioned arcs, here too, Amygdala was kept captive in a holding cell. Marvelous verdict. Wrapping things up, Amygdala's almost super size and strength are impressive. His diminished intellect and emotional imbalance, however, make him vulnerable to being exploited by villains. Otherwise, there's no doubt that the big guy has a heart of gold. We hope that the writers devote more screen space to Amygdala in future arcs, facilitating an in-depth exploration of the character's past. He also deserves a better ending rather than a hasty death. Although his death essentially led to Valmont's death, so symbolically at least, that's something to think about. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe out there. Thanks, everyone.